Hey, what's up, everybody? Look who's live today. It is myself, Rene, LOWKEY Geek, and Blake, the Wolf. We are the Movie Time Movie Bros. What's on, everybody? What's going on, dude?
Dude, what's up? Been super busy. Been watching movies as we do.
Okay.
Been talking about movies with you here on a weekly basis. We're back, and maybe Marvel's back too. I don't know. How's it going with you, man? What have you been doing?
I've been good. Still keeping busy and, obviously doing stuff here on the channel and all that. Catching up on Guardians going into this movie that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm very excited to discuss this. And just a heads up, we have not discussed our thoughts on the movie just yet. We were just catching up, making sure technical stuff was working correctly. So again, those of you who are watching live, thank you for watching and joining us. Let us know if there are any audio issues and all that. Nothing's perfect these days, so we definitely would love the heads up and all. But yeah, so we don't know how each other feels about this movie just yet. But it's going to be really, really interesting to find out and hear what we all think about this movie going forward. But before we start going into all that, and like we do every episode, welcome. Hello, how are you? I
Hello.
hope you're all doing great. We
Hello.
are, again, the Movie Time movie review podcast, where we have episodes every week where we talk about movies, reviews on movies, and all that stuff. We are just two buds who loves movies. If you like what you see, and you haven't done so yet, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to get notified every time a new episode is posted here on the channel. If you want LOWKEY Geek or Movie Time on the go, you could check out the LOWKEY Geek podcast channel on your podcast platform of choice, where you could find these episodes and audio versions of what we do here on the channel for your downloading and listening pleasure. And then we are live today, so super chats are live. And donations are always welcomed and accepted. If you want us to address your comment and question while we are doing this program, make sure to super chat it in. If you want your question or comment read out loud by the Geek Bot we have initiated, that's right, we have a Geek Bot on the show. $5 plus donation will have that read out loud for you. Just follow the link pinned in the comments and found in the description. And you could have some fun with that. No holds barred. So whatever you guys want to say to us, please, by all means, do so. And also, last but not least, if you're in a position to help further support the channel and help the channel grow, check out the affiliates we have listed in the description. You might find something awesome for yourself or for a loved one. And by participating, you will be helping support this channel at no additional cost to any of you. And for all of your support, we thank you and all that. All right, enough of that crap. Blake, what you been up to, man?
Some holds barred on the questions for the record. Just some holds, like
Some, okay.
I guess actually for $5, no holds barred. For $6, Rene will do an impression reading the question of the prepubescent Rocket Raccoon.
There we go.
And if I make any errors on people's names, Rene is the low-key geek, and I am a fan, but more of an interloper when it comes to the MCU. So I'll be asking him a few questions. If you have questions, they're probably the same questions I have, and we'll get into it, and we'll let Rene just fully geek out about Guardians. I'm excited for that. As far as movies, you've been catching up on the Guardians.
Yes.
I definitely should have done that, because it's been a few years since we had one of these.
Sure.
We have an event movie on our hands this week. That's always makes it more exciting to be here. In the last week, I saw an event movie of the low-key indie international sort, but people are hyped about Sisu.
Oh, nice.
Sisu?
Yeah.
Loved it.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Yes. I saw it early.
You mentioned it, and then you kind of like reframed it, because after that, I got a lot of ads for it, and a lot of people saying it's the World War II John Wick. And I understand where that was coming from, but you were like, that's not really, that's a marketing scheme more.
Yeah.
It was, if you can handle gore, and because it was pretty gnarly. It was gnarlier than John Wick on some of them. Like, you're seeing the before, during, and after of a severe wound, or a mine hitting someone's head, or a knife going through their skull.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with that, and also if you're a Nazi, you're probably not going to love the movie, but also fuck out of here. This movie was ruled, because I love a good Nazi killing movie.
Hell yeah.
I come from a line of Nazi killers, and the Inglorious Bastards and the Sisu, where it's just like, just go all out, just Loved it. Had a great time at the movies doing that one. And then I
Awesome.
also rewatched Beau is Afraid, which we're not going to do another 2.5 hour trying to figure out what that movie's about. The second time, same amount of questions, exact same questions.
Really?
My theories are a little more informed because I
Okay.
saw some of the things we talked about that you'd pointed out to me.
Yeah.
And I have like I feel a little bit more comfortable in that world, but it's still just fully just panic attack, bad trip movie, and I love it the same.
Hmm.
Like, but nothing changed. Like it's just as dense and enigmatic of a text as the first
Okay.
watch. So it didn't really help in that regard. It's like, oh, now I get it. No, no
Right.
one,
Right.
it's
Now it's
impossible.
all clear to me now. Right.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to. I want to hear, especially as far as the Guardians that you've been catching up on and how
Sure.
you are coming into this movie. Um, eh, People are coming into it like from different places, different levels of
Yeah.
Marvel fandom. Marvel's in an interesting place. Where are
Sure.
you coming in from, and how is your rewatching?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Marvel, in my opinion, and many other people's opinions, it has been kind of hit or miss, mostly miss these days. Thor: Love and Thunder, I hated that movie, and I gave it a second shot, and after the second one, it made me hate it. The second viewing, I hated it even more. After that. When it comes to their Disney Plus series, obviously it's also been kind of hit or miss too. I felt like they started somewhat strong and then things just kind of went all over the place after that. And I think it's because there's just an abundance of content they're putting out with no real proper direction. Now, I mean, you could kind of say, like, look, Phase 4 is dealing with the aftermath of the events of Endgame. People are still recuperating from the snap and getting together with loved ones and figuring their lives out and all that stuff, so they're dealing with grief and transformations and transitions and all that stuff like that. Plus we were introduced to a lot of characters just out of nowhere, right? So I felt like a lot of people were kind of just like all over the place and feelings were kind of whatever. When we talked about Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, I know you didn't like that movie so much. And I was kind of like 50-50 on it because I was a Sam Raimi fan, and still am. And that was a very Sam Raimi movie. But it was kind of like, okay, where did this come from? Like, this is kind of weird. Where is it going? No Way Home, different story. I felt like, that was just a great nostalgia trip for Spider-Man fans and all of that. And, that's what kind of made it a great movie. And then you had movies like Eternals and Shang-Chi and all that, and various opinions and all. But I do feel like Thor, the last Thor movie, was pretty much the turning point for a lot of people. There were people who loved that movie, and there are people like me who just really hated that movie. So I do feel like there is such a thing as Marvel fatigue. So when I went ahead and I rewatched the first two Guardians, it made me remember why I love Marvel films, because those two were just very unique. And you're taking a group of people that no one really knows about, and you're making them very fascinating and interesting, and you're building on the characters and all that. You're invested in what they go through. And I think James Gunn does so well with these ensemble casts and putting together people that are like broken. These are people that have issues. These are people that are not perfect. And when they're together, they're not perfect, but they figure stuff out, and they recognize one another, and they're there for one another. They support each other, and they really truly become friends and all that, and they become a family. And that's been like a reoccurring thing that happens throughout all of these movies is the family aspect. It's like we're a family, the importance of family, the importance of belonging. So it was really good to see all that. Now, before obviously we get more into the Guardians 3 stuff, there was a holiday special that they put out that I'm sure the fans saw, and maybe some who are not so much of hardcore fans probably didn't watch. I'm assuming you didn't watch it, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was. It was. I'm on the level of fandom
Yeah.
right between those. They're like, oh, I want to watch that. Should watch that. And I heard some reviews and people
Hmm.
told me some things and never watched it.
Right. Yeah, and
So it's one of
that's
the few. I kind of like on the Disney Pluses. I've kind of put those more to the side now.
yeah.
Which at some point too, I want to go through like in the last 10 Marvel movies, we've had one or two hits, and we've had a couple flops on the shows. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I've basically allowed myself in my MCU fandom. I still see every movie. I've seen all of them before, but I'm
Hmm.
not forcing myself to watch everything on Disney Plus
Right.
once it started falling off there. So,
Yeah. No, that makes
what
sense.
did are you? I think it's okay to spoil the
Yeah.
Guardians Christmas special.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. I
Did
mean,
you rewatch that, or are you going off of you saw it back in December? Did you like it?
yeah. So it was one of those. It reminded me of like the type of straight to TV holiday specials you would get back in the day. It was just like one of those like nice side mission type of things that coincided with the holiday season. That if you remember in old TV time, every major show had to have a Christmas special. They had to have like a holiday special, right? And it usually was an episode that didn't really mean anything to the entire show. It was just like, oh, Jimmy got lost. We got to find Jimmy in time for Christmas. Or, oh, there's this one present and we can't afford it, but we have to find a way to make mom happy or whatever the case is, right? And this was one of
Or
those,
the
or,
Star Wars Christmas special, which the best version of Guardians Christmas special might be a parody of the Star Wars Christmas special, which
right,
is
right,
already a parody of like a good thing
right.
of a good Christmas special.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so glad that's on YouTube. That used to be impossible to
Oh
find.
my gosh.
Recently, I was
Yeah.
trying to tell someone about it, and they were like, "What?"
Yep.
And then we just watched it, and it was nauseating.
It was something. It was
So,
definitely something. Yeah.
yeah, but I understand the concept of the Christmas special, and
Yeah.
that's what this was. It's not necessarily it is canon. It's officially
Yeah.
part of the story,
Yeah.
but it's more of a side quest. And my understanding is there's things that happen in that I maybe would have understood this movie Guardians 3 better if I'd seen that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go into that a little bit now because again, it's not huge spoiler stuff. There wasn't anything major that really happened in the special. The special was basically, and if you remember from like Guardians, ever since Guardians 1, Peter Quill always he mentions Kevin Bacon and Footloose, and that's like one of his favorite movies, right? So he sees Kevin Bacon as like this big hero, and now Peter, he's depressed. It's the holidays. He's still missing Gamora and all that. So Mantis and Drax decides to go back to Earth to kidnap Kevin Bacon to bring him back to Peter as a present, to try to cheer him up and all. So it's like a lot of hijinks, but the main things that really happen in that special is that you get to see the bond of Mantis and Drax really get stronger. So you see that also happening, and it explains a lot of stuff and the chemistry that's happening in this third movie. Like they're like brother and sister at this point. It's like there's no separating them. Speaking of brother and sister, it is also revealed that Mantis is Peter's sister, because we come to find out that Ego, played by Kurt Russell in Volume 2, is also Mantis's dad. So it is revealed at the end of the special that she kind of confronts Peter and says, "Hey, I'm your sister." And he's like, "Wow, that's the best present I could ever get." So they have like this sweet,
Oh,
very bonding moment, and it was very, very nicely done. And I think the last really bit of stuff that is good to know going into this movie is that they're on nowhere. This was a planet that was introduced way back in Volume 1, and they always seem to come back to. So it turns out before Yondu died, Yondu made a deal with Nowhere where he bought Nowhere, and now it belongs to the Ravagers, which is like that ragtag group that Peter's a part of. So now becomes the Guardians' home base, and that is kind of explained in the holiday special. Hence why you start off at Nowhere in this movie. And a lot of people are probably wondering like, oh, why did that happen and all that. And I'm sure a lot of people
thank
are like,
you.
what
Yeah.
happened? Where's Thor? Well, if you watched Thor Love and Thunder, you would see that they kind of split ways because Thor needed to find himself, and all that, and he had to go on a journey. And Peter and was pretty much just like, yeah, you do that. Yeah, go ahead, go away. And just trying to get rid of him basically. And they separate and all that. So,
Well, that points out another problem with the recent Marvel falling off.
mhm.
Is I saw Thor, I just kind of blocked it out of my memory,
Right.
and when this movie started, I was like, "Where's Thor?" And I'm
Yeah.
like pulling out my phone and my hoodie, like, "Why is Thor not here?"
Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
right, yeah, they addressed all of this in the movie that was not good.
Yeah.
It used to be all the references, everyone in the audience got them because it was appointment viewing at the movies every time a new Marvel movie came out.
Yeah.
We have enough of them that we're flopping that we know the box office numbers are not what they used to be.
Right.
And a couple reasons for that, but one of them, they're not as good. And so now it's harder to keep everyone on board. If you
Mhm.
start losing, it can quickly become like a sand through the fingers problem where like, oh, half the audience gets the references. Now half the audience is enjoying this. The half that remains, the other half is going to be less likely to go to the next one because they're not enjoying this one as much.
Yeah.
It could be a little reverse snowball
Yeah, it could
problem.
be.
So
But the one thing that Guardians has going for themselves for sure is that it's one of the Marvel like standalone movies that people really generally love. It
yeah,
really captures the attention of not only like the hardcore fans like myself, but people who are just casual fans like you. Like
yeah,
I remember you told me before that you enjoyed the first two movies, right? It was just
yeah,
very enjoyable, easy to understand for the most part. And what they do really well is that they try not to tie in so much to the overall stuff that's happening with the rest of the MCU, with the rest of the Marvel universe. They're their own group. They have their own stuff that they have to deal with. And then, from time to time, you do find them obviously interacting with the rest of the Marvel canon and the rest of the Marvel lore and, all that. But for the most part, these movies are pretty good standalone movies, but they work within the Guardians series, so
yeah.
obviously two plays off of what happened in one, three plays off of what happened in two, and the holiday special like that. It doesn't really play off too much on what happened outside of that, except with the losing of Gamora and why Peter is kind of still in mourning of all that. So yeah.
Which catches us up nicely. Thank you, because that was
Yeah,
one of the first questions I had also, because it's been a while since we've
sure.
been fully
It's
in
been a
the
while.
thralls of Endgame. Um, I was like, why is Peter so sad? Why is he
Yeah.
in drunk Thor mode, fat Thor, drunk Thor mode? And they're like, is Peter okay? And everyone's worried about Peter. I
Yeah.
now you're mentioning that. It's, oh, right, that's why he's sad, because the love of his life was sacrificed.
Yep.
R.I.P. Gamora.
Yep.
And then Gamora shows up, and I was like, I'm gonna ask Rene about a lot of this stuff. So I don't think that's not a serious spoiler, but we'll try to save most of my bigger questions that involve spoilings for a little bit later in the episode. What was your if it, what was your theater experience like? What was
Yeah.
your reaction to this one? Because you were fully ready for this movie.
Oh
You've
yeah.
got the jacket on still. I don't know if you've
Which
had
is
it on
very
since Guardians
coincidental.
2. Yeah. Yeah.
Very,
Is it?
very, yes. No, it really is. It's very coincidental. I had the jacket for a long time. The shirt I definitely bought from Guardians too. Like this is a representation of Star-Lord's shirt from the second movie. But it's yeah, no. I was really eagerly anticipating this movie because I really enjoy the Guardians trilogy. Well, now it's a trilogy, but I love the series so far. So I was really geared up. Now I went to see it in my local theater, 3 p.m. on a Thursday. So it's afternoon, which is the time that I usually try to see these movies because it's usually not that packed. I could really enjoy it without a lot of distraction. And I knew right away, and it's funny because I texted Blake later that night, and I told Blake I knew this movie is going to be huge because the theater was pretty much half full, which is rare for that time,
Wow.
but it was filled with people that I knew were supposed to be at work at the time. And these are people that have like day jobs. They just come
Working class
across the
folks.
working class folks, yeah.
These aren't
And
like teenagers on spring break kind
no,
of movie theater, 3 p.m. You get the
yeah,
4 p.m. crowd. It's like everyone just um you said half full. What's funny too is because we've been talking about movies and we're trying to gauge how popular a
sure,
movie will be, box office predictions based on I usually am doing the latest showing on a Thursday night. You're usually
yeah,
doing the earliest one. It's
yeah,
a pretty decent metric. They're not going to be the most popular showings, but we kind of have a gauge for how full that theater is based on how
yep,
successful it'll be.
hmm,
You always are like, yeah, there were two people there, and
right,
this is a movie everyone was excited about, and now I'm starting to worry. Or that's kind of normal for a 3 p.m. Really,
right,
you go to especially like before school's out, two people in a 3 p.m. show is like, okay, this is about
yeah,
as good as it usually get. Half full.
yeah, yeah,
This franchise, damn.
Yeah, no,
Marvel
Pete.
might have a hit on their hands. I don't know if they know it, but this might be a surprise hit. And you know
I
what?
think
I'm really glad I chose it for our box office thing. Now that you
which
mentioned that,
yeah,
thank
which
you.
we'll definitely get into too, because you're having a great first start to
Damn right.
that whole contest we have going on.
You're
But yeah,
damn right.
no, it was half full, and like I said, with like working class people, and they were there as groups too. Like they were showing up. It's almost as if, let's just say like you have an auto body shop, right? And you have everyone, and it felt like everyone just decided, hey, let's close the shop early. Let's go catch this freaking movie because we're dying to see it. And maybe we'll go back or not, whatever the case is, and we'll continue working. But they were in groups, and I thought that was really, really fascinating. But yeah, it's because of that I knew, okay, this is going to be huge, and I think Marvel is aware that this is going to be big too. With their box office predictions for the weekend, I think globally they're predicting 250 million. I think they may be slightly undercutting themselves. Who knows? But I think this is going to be definitely a huge hit for the weekend. But yeah, going into it again, I was very eagerly anticipating it. I was also somewhat concerned because of Marvel, how they've been treating their stuff in recent years. But I also have full confidence in James Gunn. Like James Gunn has been very he has nothing but hits when it comes to Marvel stuff. Even now with DC, he did that new Suicide Squad, and then he did the Peacemaker TV series on HBO, and those were fantastically done too. So I have a lot of confidence in him. This movie really, really shows and again reaffirms that James Gunn is a brilliant creative mind. He
You must have a bright future with the MCU.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
If this movie's super, super successful, the irony is, Marvel, you had a great hit. You lost the guy who made it to the competition before it
Exactly.
was released. Good
Yeah.
job. We're really excited for the next movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marvel's, in November. You're gonna have a great summer. Got you.
Oh yeah. It's I am very, very confident that DC's in good hands, with James Gunn moving forward over there. So it is a big loss for Marvel. So one of the things I mentioned in my Letterboxd review, again, if you don't follow us on Letterboxd, you see the screen names of our Letterboxd handles down below. This felt like not only a close to the chapter of the Guardians of the Galaxy as we knew them, but it's also a close of the old Marvel regime, because I feel like a lot of things are being transferred out. They're putting a lot of focus on the new younger stars of the Marvel universe. And a lot of the people who were involved in the Marvel universe are starting to like move on, right? It's already been said, Dave Bautista said he's not going to be returning as Drax. He's not expecting to or wanting to. He needs a break from that stuff. Recently, Zoe Saldana also confirmed that she is not interested in returning as Gamora anymore. Chris, he's very loyal to James Gunn, as is everyone else. And now that James Gunn is gone, he said that it's going to take him very big convincing to return as Star-Lord, because James is not going to be involved. But if the story makes sense, then he will return, which is interesting because how we got something at the end in the post credits that makes me question, okay, what does that mean? So, and we'll talk about that more in the spoiler stuff. But this movie was a very emotional, very, very entertaining, had a lot of great funny moments, and not funny where it was like overbearingly funny or trying to be funny like Thor. Like, it's not that, it's the same James Gunn type of humor that you're used to. And it just had a lot of great character moments that once again made you realize how much you love these characters and how much you actually love them as a group. So to see this close of a chapter is very sad in a way. I'm sure eventually, maybe one day, we'll get to have them reunite and all that. But it was like a perfect close to the trilogy that James Gunn worked on and that he was a part of. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies we got since Endgame. Again, going back to the one of the best movies that they've done. And if I were to kind of rank the Guardians movies, I would probably say this is probably the best one out of the three. in my opinion. So those are just my initial thoughts on the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think it's my favorite too. I just have. I'll do my quick little like theater. It was
Yeah.
the 8 p.m. Thursday showing, which should
Mhm.
be a full one, but they also the Midtown AMC had maybe 20 different showings throughout the day. It's one of those like
Yeah. Huge.
big releases like we rarely see these days. Used to be
Yeah.
more common, like Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire, kind of like back in the
Yeah.
day, like every theaters for that movie kind of vibe. Um, the so I'm going to say that it was about 80% full, which when you have that many showings, that first couple rows isn't going to be sold and people are going to go to the other one. And they'll just keep adding showings as long as it's getting to a certain very full. Surprised me there weren't applause at the end, but my little group applauded. We just had a little bro night at the movies.
Hmm.
Great movie for that. We were hyped about it, into it, excited. I think the audience enjoyed it. Like based on audience reaction,
Yeah.
people were there for it. It might be just like how it ended, which we'll get to later, that
Hmm.
had some effect on that. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot. The Guardians 2 is what got me fully into MCU. I was skeptical. I was in the Scorsese camp of these aren't real art movies and these are
Sure.
bad for cinema. And then I saw Guardians 1, then 2 back to back once when Guardians 2 was coming out. And that's when I go, oh, I'm going all the way in on the
Nice.
MCU.
Uh,
And since then, haven't looked back. And I sometimes wish I had lately because that's the other thing I'm going to mention real quick. I'm not sure where you want to take it after this, but
yeah.
I'm just going to go through phase 4 and 5 because there's only been a couple movies in phase 5. This is the second one.
Okay.
And I just want to play a game called like bad, good, or mixed reviews. And I'm not saying
Okay.
like for us, but
I
like
like it.
general audience, like, is this understood to be a good MCU movie, a bad MCU, or like mixed reviews? And
I like it.
Black Widow, bad.
Bad. Yep.
Yes.
I guess so. Yep.
Shang-Chi, I'm saying mixed to good, I
Yeah.
think.
That sounds about right.
All right. Eternals, bad.
Uh,
Mixed.
mostly. Yeah. Not to me, but mostly. Yeah.
Same. I liked it. This is not
Yeah.
our reviews. You can
Yeah.
add
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
side category. I liked it. Bad reviews, bad results.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home, good.
Extremely
Very,
good.
very,
Yeah.
very good. Saved the movies before Top Gun even got on the
Extremely good.
scene.
Yeah. Exactly.
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, bad.
Yeah. Mostly bad. Yeah.
Thor Love and Thunder, bad.
See, now I would say that's mixed because I heard a lot of people liked it. You
Box
know,
office wise,
box
Thor Love and
office
Thunder?
wise, probably
I mean, they're
not
successful, but not
fantastic.
as successful
Yeah.
as they should be, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then we'll just do a quick little like Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 63%, which not
Now,
good
is that
compared to the.
user rating or is that critic rating?
I'm so sorry. I, for the record, don't love Rotten Tomatoes. Its
Yeah.
monometer, 63%. The audience score, 77%. So
That's what I felt.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I'm sure I'm looking at it now. Metacritic, 57%. When you just go like
Okay.
critical acclaim, there's different
Okay.
ways to judge it. Audience
Sure.
scores, box office, critics. Not great. We'll say it
Yeah.
that way. And like the fact that Thor has a big hit in Ragnarok, the first one, and then two of the
Yeah.
worst Marvel movies in that way. All right, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I'm saying mixed.
I would say
Some people would say
mixed.
good. Some people would
Yeah.
say bad. So I'm going
Yeah.
mixed. So
Yeah.
is it then you compare to the first one and they had a bad, they were dealt a bad hand of cards
Unfortunate
in that one.
situation. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, worst ever is what I wrote next to this one. So if I'm keeping track at home, we have two that are mixed to good, one good, Spider-Man, and then all the others are bad of that
Mhm.
list. And to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, worst ever based on just multiple metrics for MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, good. And then my question is, does this help Marvel? Or are you just giving James Gunn a shitload of momentum before he goes to the other team, the competition? Which, yeah, it's good. It's good if they make money. It's good if they get people invested in their characters. But it was kind of like reminding me a little bit of watching Shazam 2, where I'm like, am I ever going to see these people again? Does any
Mm,
of this matter at all? Which is a
yeah.
DC problem. And
Yeah.
just in general, I guess what I'm kind of getting at is superhero movies are in a weird flux position we've been saying for a couple of years now, and some people have been saying for longer, this superhero dominance of the box office isn't going to last forever. Eventually, they'll come across some kryptonite, and we'll see where they go. This is a turning point, and so my one of my questions is this going to be a standout in the downfall of MCU, of superhero movies in general? Is this going to help them get an uptick? Because next movie is November, The Marvels.
Yeah.
After that, it's a year from now. Literally
Yeah.
same weekend, a year from now, Captain America: New World Order. That's a lot of flopping since 2021. If you go back to Endgame 2019, if I'm right, they didn't have a movie for a couple of years there. Some things came up around the world, got in the way. But in 5 years, that means you'll have 2 good movies, 2 mixed ones, and all the others being in the bad camp. That's not great. What
No.
does this mean for the future of the franchise? We did our little reviews. How do you feel about Marvel right now?
So I think, yeah, like you said, Marvel is in a very interesting spot right now where they have to be, and I know they're aware of this. They have to be very cautious with what they kind of throw out there. And just like Star Wars, they had to do some reconfiguring and readjusting. And I think their decision to kind of slow down on the content with the changing of some release dates. Remember, Marvels was supposed to be coming out in the summer, and they kind of pushed it back. They moved it to November to kind of like stretch things out a little bit more. Because I think they do realize that there's just so much that they were throwing out there that they needed to kind of slow down. What this movie will do, I think it will kind of, I think, instill more confidence in people that Marvel still can do great quality movies. Because I think a lot of people who are not like us, I think they are not fully aware that, look, James Gunn is not going to be working on any more Marvel movies. Like he's going to be fully committed to DC. So a lot of that back end stuff, most people are not going to realize. They're just going to see this as a Marvel property, and they're just going to say, "Wow, this movie is great." At least I'm hoping that's their reaction. And then they're going to ride this wave to whatever the next Marvel thing, which is, I believe, a Disney Plus series, Secret Invasion, which we'll see the return of Sam Jackson, and a lot of people really loved his character as Nick Fury. And if they could knock that out of the park, then again, more confidence instilled, then it'll lead into Marvels. Now, Marvels is going to be a huge test, I think, for Marvels, where how's the audience going to really react to it? One, you have 3 female leads in the movie, so I think for the female audiences, that's going to be great for them. For the younger generation, the young females, they're going to love to see great representation on screen. And I think people who are fans of the Miss Marvel series is going to love this, because I think she's going to steal that movie. Iman Vellani, I think she's going to steal it out of for everyone there. But how strong is this movie going to be? Like how interesting, how is it going to play along with the rest of the universe that they're building? We don't know yet. But that's going to be a huge test for them, because you're right. After that, movie wise, and because of the current writer strike that we're in right now, we don't even know how that's going to affect Captain America. I heard that the script is done, but the Marvel way of filming is that they always do changes on the fly, and without any writers available on set. Then what's going to happen? Are they going to they just announced that Blade has been put on pause because of the strike. So they're not working on Blade right now. So Captain America, I believe they're starting to do stuff on it. I think they're filming right now. But how is that going to work out? How's that going to affect things? So I don't know. It's hard to say, but at least for the short term, Marvel is going to be in a great spot again, because I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this is the Marvel that I've been waiting for. This is the stuff that I've been waiting for,
The other thing I'll mention real quick, since you were talking about the shows, is I'm not going to do the full list of everything ever, but essentially WandaVision hit, Falcon Winter Soldier mixed but not hit in the same way. Loki hit. What If good, not
Yeah,
as successful overall. Hawkeye, not good. Moon Knight, I'm just going with general. This is my gut.
sure,
Not as
sure.
good. Miss Marvel, no. She-Hulk, no. That catches us up since Endgame on all the properties. Secret Invasion is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Loki season 2, What If season 2. You've got a few properties here that'll test the franchise for sure. And then you're right. The next one, they have some juice right now with what I think is going to be a pretty big hit. We'll see those box
Hmm.
office numbers come in. The next one having the word Marvel in it is interesting, especially we're introducing new characters. And it's kind of almost like, in some ways, like a perfect here's where we're at now. We're in the middle of phase 5, which,
Hmm.
first little set up to Endgame had 3 phases. We're getting right to that halfway point. It's got Marvels in the name, and it's got new characters, and we're in this still kind of like part of this pivot since Endgame. It'd be really telling what happens after that. And you're right. I was looking at what the next movies are. We're talking Thunderbolts and Blade for in this phase
Yeah.
are coming up after Captain America. That's really interesting, especially if Blade gets pushed. Let's just
Yeah.
say a couple few months might be fair.
Hmm.
We're now looking at through the end of 2024. Because
Yeah.
especially if it gets pushed a couple months, you're looking at like a Thanksgiving, maybe a holiday movie, if
Right.
that. Thunderbolts is new characters. Blade. So I guess I'm looking at this, what I'm kind of getting at, and then I'm happy to move on. I don't know that we don't have any whatever psychic powers, unfortunately, to see what the future holds.
Speak for
But what
yourself, buddy.
what I can see happening with the Marvel franchise here is it goes from being you got to watch every one, they're going to build up, and the audiences will be full every time. It might become what superhero movies used to be a little bit more is like, oh, we'll have a big event summer blockbuster movie, something like a Blade. Everyone's going to go out and see it. Everyone's going to go out and see a Spider-Man every few years, kind of thing. Captain America could just keep going in a way, or it'll transform. But I don't know that it'll be they are the New York Yankees just winning all the games and the World Series is and be that number one dominant franchise. It'll be more of this is what my gut says right now
Hmm.
is if the reign is ending of superhero movies, which we're getting there to where the big box office movies last year, there's still IP stuff. It's like Top Gun Maverick and Avatar, but those are the top 2 last year. Neither of those no Marvel, no DCU. Um, that's what my gut says. We'll get more toward like event movie superhero stuff. The way that a Top Gun or an Avatar is, oh yeah, we made another one, and people will be excited about it and go see it. But I don't know that they're going to have the box office full, and there'll be more like I feel like maybe this is how it used to be. It was like Fantastic Four or a Wolverine movie. Is like, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
got some nerds in there, and you got some casual, like, oh yeah, I just want to see some people get punched,
Yeah.
fans, but not every single person at school, college, the water cooler, like, oh my God, what did you think of the movie? And everyone in the office had seen the movie from last night. That's what my gut says.
Yeah. I think you're not fully wrong. I think Marvel knows that they're in a spot where the next year or two is going to be down for them. And I think they're already prepping for that and they're gearing up. I truly think, and again, it depends on one, who they cast and how the story is going to, and two, how the story is going to be. I think the next big thing to get Marvel into the eyes of everyone, it will be Fantastic Four. That's why it's kind of funny that you mentioned Fantastic Four, because there's been a lot of news surrounding Fantastic Four this past week, last 2 weeks, whatever. If the rumors end up becoming true, I mean, could you imagine Fantastic Four starring Adam Driver as Mr. Fantastic, Margot Robbie as Invisible Girl, Paul Mescal as Human Torch, and I forgot who they might be
Wait,
considering as Thing.
none
Um,
of that's confirmed what you just said, correct?
it's all rumored. It's all rumored right now. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because
yeah,
I was about to just open up my app and buy all the Marvel stock
yeah.
in the world just because I love that idea. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like these are all the new up and coming people in Hollywood right now. I mean, Adam, he's been in the game for a bit now, and so is Margot. But I mean, they're not at the level like Robert Downey Jr. was or Chris Evans and all that. But this could be the thing that can generate the fandom once again, if the story is right, if the execution hits, right? And then I think everyone's waiting as to when they're going to introduce mutants. When are we going to get our Wolverine? When are we going to get our X-Men and all that? Deadpool 3 may help with that when that comes out, but I think a lot of people are waiting for that, and then that might be the one that kind of revigorates the Marvel brand once again. But I think right now it's going to be, all right, let's do these movies that we already had planned that will play in the overall storyline that we're trying to tell. Oh, we didn't even mention the whole Jonathan Majors situation. How is that
Oh
going
my
to
gosh.
affect things? Because he's supposed to be our main baddie for the next two phases, so we don't even know
If
how
you want
that's
to
going to
cast
affect
a
things.
main bad guy and you want people to root against him, hear me out. Great casting.
He's playing the
The
role
audience
apparently.
will boo when they see him on the screen. Isn't that wow? What a convincing performance to play a bad guy. How
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah.
Unbelievable.
So we don't even know.
Also, when are we getting the Howard the Duck sitcom Disney
You're
Plus show? Like,
hey,
how much
I
longer until that happens?
you're not wrong. I've been hoping and wishing for that for a long time. That and I think
Spider
Spider
Ham and
Ham.
Howard the Duck
Yes.
buddy comedy. Hear me
Yes.
out.
Yes, we need that. We need that like yesterday. I mean, that is something they should have been working on. None of this what they're doing now, dinosaur and Moon Girl or whatever. Like it's this cartoon I saw on Disney Plus that's Marvel related, which I'm sure is fun. I never watched it, but that's not what I want. I want fucking
Yeah.
Spider Ham and Howard the Duck and all that. But anyway, so at the end of the day, how did you feel about the movie? I don't think you really talked about it.
You're right. I really enjoyed it.
Nice, nice,
I
nice.
laughed a bunch. I enjoyed. I feel like the special effects have kind of fallen off for MCU in recent years. We're seeing that happening. There was a couple times I was like, not as good, but that's like one of the few gripes. There's not much else. To me, this is the strongest Guardians movie. The performances were really good. I also feel like Chris Pratt lost his fast pitch a little bit, his fastball, just a few miles per hour on it. Maybe it's because we're kind of used to the Chris Pratt thing. There's a few lines that fell flat. You're also seeing a lot of green screen acting, especially in this franchise, and that's true of all MCUs, sure, but
Mhm.
especially in this franchise, where it's a very like psychedelic planet and nothing is very Earth based anymore, especially in this movie. But overall, I am a sucker for the Drax comedy. I do enjoy Chris Pratt's thing overall. There's a few different characters where just every time they do anything or open their mouths, I'm into it. I really enjoy this movie. Does what another Vin Diesel property does, or tries to do, is the family thing, and it's the family you choose, and we're in this together, and we're on a mission, and
Yeah.
every movie's its own little like family gets back together and saves their group for whatever their mission is. This franchise is really good at that, and this movie especially was really good at that. There's also, I want to say, on the big bad, I'm going to pronounce it Chukwudu Iwuji. Unbelievable,
Oh my God, he was
great character, great
fantastic,
performance,
fantastic. Yeah.
unbelievable. And then his little crew, his sidekicks, including Nico Santos, brilliant. I loved what they were doing in the big bad, which to me can really make or break a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
When we left Thor, you were talking about the Christian Bale performance.
Yep.
We talked about the Russell Crowe performance. That is a lot of, especially when that's the most lines given to a brand new character. Absolutely crushed it.
Yeah.
There's the point where, oh, I've met someone like you before. You just want to destroy the world, and he's going, no, I want to perfect the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. At some point, somebody mentions God. He goes, "There is no God. That's why I'm filling
That's
it."
why I'm. Yeah. So good. So good.
Great lines from a bad
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
and the acting, the performance, the makeup, the character, and then also this is, and if I'm getting his name wrong, I'm so sorry. Please don't punch me. I'm the nerd amongst nerds. I'm the one who's like, you called him what? You think that's a DCU movie? Well, I don't even know if it's called DCU. Okay. Rocket Raccoon is his first and last. Rocket,
Yes.
we just call him Rocket. What does he like to go by?
In the last several iterations, he's always gone as Rocket, but in the comic books, the full name is Rocket Raccoon.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go with Rocket then.
Yeah.
This is a Rocket movie.
Oh,
I
totally.
love that. Also, I
100%.
think
Yeah.
we're stepping into spoilers territory. Is that cool? We're just going in for it.
You want to just do it now?
Is
All right. Yeah.
I mean, we're
Let's
going into plot stuff and
let's do it.
reactions and all
Let's
that.
do
I don't
it. All
know
right.
what else we're going to talk about
No, no,
before
no.
we get.
Let's go.
So I
I'm
want
gonna
to talk
put
about the rocket
yeah.
of it all.
Yeah, I'm gonna put up the spoiler alert now. So again, for those of you who are watching live or on the replay, we are now going to spoiler territory. So let's go.
We'll wait 2.5 hours for you to go see it and come back. Go with a 15-minute drive. Okay.
It's
No.
worth it. It's worth it.
This is a Rocket Raccoon movie more
Yeah.
than a Guardians movie, or like it's a Rocket movie of a Guardians movie. I really liked that. It
Yeah.
was touching. It was sweet. It was like there was a Frankenstein's monster aspect of it, but it was like a very lovable, cute, like Bradley Cooper feature.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It made it feel more special than just like, oh, gang's back together, same group, doing the same kind of thing again. This was kind of like a little spin-off in a way, where afterward I was like, I just want to see the Rocket franchise after this. I would be okay with that. And
Yeah.
we're not gonna I'm not trying to talk about the ending just now because I know you have some thoughts on that and want to get to like where's the group going from here. But I'll just say from the beginning, we've got the Radiohead song Creep. We've got a
Mm-hmm.
really sad intro. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
you cry at the In the Arms of Angels animal commercials, whatever those are, you're definitely going to be sad in the intro of this movie. And we definitely see Mr. Rocket get some scientific testing done, and we figure out how he's able to speak, how he got so smart, why he learned to shoot guns in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. Pretty dark stuff.
Yeah.
They leaned into that a bit, which this franchise is able to do. We're talking about the very first movie. What his mother is dying, and it's very sad. Like
Yeah.
people are crying in the audience, sad. This franchise is good at doing that, and also it's light, but everyone's kind of jaded, and they're all kind of hard asses and have had tough lives, and now there's this bit motley crew that gets
Mm-hmm.
together. So that's kind of the only thing I was getting at when we're moving to spoiler stuff. Is just from the very beginning, it's a sad and fairly dark intro, but I like that this was the Rocket movie.
Yeah.
That to me was successful, and there was a little bit of a bet on that because before he was not my favorite character. He's kind of like, why is this guy so gruff? And then you kind of fall for him over time. Like, oh, he's actually a sweetheart down in the center. He just wants to save his friends. But he
Right.
used to be the hardest edged one of this group. And he's kind of, we've seen him over time, like, oh, he's just that way because he cares so much, kind of thing.
Right.
How did you feel about that, the Rocket of it all? I thought it was successful.
Yeah, no, I it was great. And again, if you paid attention to the trailers and all that, you kind of knew, all right, there's a lot of emphasis going into Rocket in this movie. And I think the running speculation was that, oh, is Rocket gonna die in this movie? Like,
Yeah.
are we gonna lose him? And I think a lot of people online were just like, that's what's gonna happen. We think this is gonna happen. Get ready, brace yourself, and all that. That
I
didn't
avoided the
happen.
trailers, but in my
Yeah.
notebook, I literally wrote at the end of this, after the first couple scenes, I wrote either Rocket will die at the end, or the big thing will be, oh, we saved Rocket.
Right,
Will be like
right,
the
right.
the end. They set themselves up for that, and I
Yeah.
didn't know any of that going into it. Avoiding the trailers.
Yeah, no,
That was interesting.
it's good that you did. I obviously I didn't because I can't. But yeah, going into it again, it's just one of those things where, okay, is he gonna die? And the latter happened, like you said. Basically, they saved him at the end. But even at the end, when they saved him, I felt like there was a possibility that, no, wait a minute, he could still catch it. This could be like one of those fake outs, because he had to confront, quote unquote, his maker, right? But I do love the fact that we got that full Rocket background story, because with every other character, I think for the most part, we understand their background. Peter, we understood what happened to him. When you look at Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, you get the full story of Peter's background and understanding all that. With Mantis, we get a little bit of that in Volume 2 and the holiday special, just a little bit, right? With Gamora and Nebula, we understand their backgrounds, not only in the Guardians franchise, but outside of it, because they are the daughters of Thanos. So, of course, we get to see a lot of that stuff play out throughout early
Nebula,
MCU
especially,
time.
we got a lot of that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not recalling the movie now, but I think it's Infinity War. But there was a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
like where the parts came from and why
Yep.
she's the way she is. Big origin
Absolutely.
story there.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think and Drax, Drax is a very simplified background. You know, we never really got full details of like his family and all that, but he talks a lot about it, especially in volume 2 and especially here. And it's kind of funny how his character arc kind of ended at the end of this movie. It because again, it goes back to family, right? So Rocket is the only one that we never really got like a full understanding because Rocket has always been kind of closed off. He's always kind of like, no one gets to know me unless I allow you to know me like that. Because he's very, and when he had that like nice chemistry moment, bonding moment with Yondu in the volume 2, you know, where Yondu said, I understand you because I am you. You are me. Like that. We're the same person, you know. I thought that was great. And then Rocket loses him again. You know, it's like Rocket has just suffered from loss after loss after loss. And we get to see the original loss that Rocket suffered from that kind of made him the person that he is now, or the character that he is now. Um, and rewatching volumes 1 and 2 so recently, leading into this movie, if you pay attention, Rocket is the underlying main focus in these
Mm-hmm.
movies. Like you kind of
Mm-hmm.
catch moments where you're like, wow, they're really paying attention to Rocket here, or they're highlighting a
Mm-hmm.
moment here. Volume 2 ended with Rocket, with a shot of Rocket staring out into space while they're having the funeral thing for Yondu, and it cuts to black after that.
Hmm.
So
Well, the
I
very
think,
first Guardians, who finds Peter Quill, and how did Groot and Rocket come to him? And they're the first ones of the
right.
Guardians who come across him, if I recall.
Yeah,
And
it's
he's
like
the one speaking between him and Groot. He's kind of the C3PO, and Groot's more the R2, and they're the ones who like kick off the action, essentially, the ones who make this world connect with that world.
yeah, it was like if I remember, yeah, volume 1 it was Peter for the most part in the beginning, and then Gamora shows up because she's trying to steal the stone that he's trying to
Right.
get. And then Rocket and Groot, it just is there because there's a bounty on Peter's head, and they go nuts with all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, Rocket was there from the beginning, while they all met together. But you catch these little things. They're just like, oh, Rocket is like this main focus, and I guess James Gunn had that in his mind the whole time. Yeah, especially when Volume 2 ended with that one shot of Rocket just staring into space, all melancholy and sad. And then this movie opens up with basically the backstory of Rocket. It's so seamless, and it's just very good writing and very good storytelling. So I really loved it. And again, as the movie ends, it comes out that Rocket is now the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think is a perfect ending for how things go, and all that.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Was there anything else that like stood out to you? Because again, you are just a casual fan, so I know you probably have some questions. Um, but I do have to mirror again how fantastic the high evolutionary villain was. Just one of the best villains that we've gotten in the MCU in a very long time. I would say probably since Killmonger,
Yeah.
because Killmonger was such a great villain as well. Um, Unfortunately, short lived too, because it would have been awesome to see maybe another appearance from this guy. But
Yeah.
the way it all
Especially with the
ended
Jonathan
made sense.
Majors. I'm wondering if
Hmm.
like 2 weeks ago they're like, "Hey guys, can we keep him alive somehow? And he can we do a switchy?
Yeah, I
How do
know.
we do
I'm
that?"
sure they're probably thinking now, like, oh, maybe we should have had kept this a little open for a
Next
bit.
movie turns out this was a clone of the actual guy the whole time.
Yeah,
He's doing some genetic manipulation
yeah.
stuff. He's yeah. Um, as far as questions go, I what I couldn't quite tell,
Hmm.
i- i- is this the darkest Guardians movie? Like the saddest, most like we've dealt with sadness before from the beginning with the mother, right? But this
Hmm.
one felt especially dark. There's times where we're kind of like watching baby pets get tortured,
Oh yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
We're watching Rocket break bad literally before our eyes when his best friend gets shot. And also seeing it happen to like little baby pets is so hard to watch.
yeah.
Seeing little sweet little raccoon and the guys grabbing one out from the cage, but then we also this movie does pay off. I don't think if it
Mhm.
ends in that mode, it doesn't work as well. But it ends with them saving all of these Frankenstein monster creatures that have been genetically manipulated or taught, trained. They've been mutated in ways to
Mhm.
where now they can speak, they have other abilities, etc. Um, Doing that for the bad guy, I thought was a cool take. We've had a lot of different versions of, so like Thanos wants to improve the quality of life by getting rid of half the people. This
Yeah.
dude's just like one by one manipulating creatures and trying to perfect a planet and a species, etc. There was something there for sure in what made it kind of creepier but also enticing at the same time. You can kind of see how someone would get there of like,
Mhm.
oh no, I'm trying to help improve quality of life for everyone, and that's why I'm manipulating all of my subjects. Um, that was compelling. But was this the darkest one? And also, is there any way the bad guy can come back? I really liked him a lot.
Well, so to address the whole baddie thing, the one thing I always love to say is no one truly dies in comics. Like
Yeah,
there's always a way to bring someone back. Now, with kind of his death or whatever, his vanquishing, we kind of see it, right? We kind of see his
yeah,
like little demise there. So my rule is that if you see the body go, then that's probably going to be permanent, right? They could find a way maybe eventually to resurrect him. Who knows? But yeah, no, he's definitely a great villain, and I wish there was a way that he could stay and all that. But as far as darkness, yeah, no, this is definitely the darkest Guardians movie. I would dare say this is probably one of the darkest Marvel movies that we've gotten,
yeah.
because of the subject matter with Rocket and his little group of friends from the beginning, how they were mishandled and mistreated, manipulated, the gruesome deaths that they suffered, and all that. It, and I believe I read some posts and articles saying that children should be made aware that this might be kind of troublesome for them, because it does deal with a lot of cruelty to animals and very dark tones and all. So, and again, this is a credit to James Gunn where he knows how to ride that line extremely well. Where it's dark, but it plays along with the overall story that he's trying to tell, and he finds a way to balance it out so that it's dark here, but then you get some light moments here, and then you get some action beats here, and then it's dark again. Because like all of the dark moments are done in flashbacks, right? It's done in a lot of flashback modes, while Rocket is kind of like in and out of consciousness, on the table, while they're trying to like rescue him and all that. So I like the way that they kind of did it, so that it's not so overbearing. Because if it was like a lot of like moments just with all that, then
Yeah.
it'll be truly depressing. But it definitely also adds to the emotional aspect of the movie. Like the one thing that got me so hard was when it felt like Rocket was gonna die, like we were gonna lose him, right?
Hmm.
And he
Couple
goes
moments.
into,
Yeah.
yeah, and he goes into the light. He actually goes into
Yeah.
the light, and he
He's
sees
his
his
old otter
buddies.
friend.
Oh my god,
Hmm.
yeah, and they're all
Was all
hanging out together. The walrus dude is
the
like
walrus?
waving at him. Yeah, he's like,
Oh my
"Hi,
god.
Rocket," and oh my god, and then he said, "Can I join you guys?" And I think Layla is the otter's name. I forget the otter's
Lore?
name. Laura.
There's lore because they were lying on the floor.
There's
I
Flora.
actually
Yeah,
wrote down the name somewhere because I
yeah.
love that whole moment. And then they're giving themselves a nickname, and it turns out
Oh, it was
the one
so
who gave
cute.
himself the name Rocket.
Yeah, it
That was
was
maybe a highlight moment for me for sure. Like I want to rewatch their little like buddy, their little teenage
yeah.
like we're gonna be best friends forever, right, guys?
Right. Yeah,
Um,
it was
I
so cute
I Yeah, go ahead. Oh, Teeth was the walrus
because of
for
his
sure.
giant teeth.
The
Right.
bunny was lore because they were lying on the floor. So
Yeah,
good.
it's really good. But yeah, when the female companion was like, "Sure, of course you could join us," and at that moment, I was like, "Oh no, this is gonna be it." But then I love how they did like that really quick fake out where it was like, "But it's not your turn yet." You can join us when it is your turn. And I thought that was like really brilliantly done. But that was like one of the major moments that really got me. And I was just like, no. But again, they just did it so well. The execution was just so good.
Lila is what I have down as
Lila.
the name
Okay.
from what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Also, we got to talk about War Pig while we're talking about the mutant creatures. Did you get any Bebop and Rocksteady
Oh,
vibes
totally.
from
Yeah,
Teenage
yeah,
Mutant
yeah,
Ninja
yeah.
Turtles from War Pig? Because War
100%.
Pig was a beast, and I really didn't like watching the War Pig get decapitated because I was like, I just kind of want to watch a lot of War Pig stuff, and I don't know what
Yeah.
that says about me, but that was a very badass henchman for sure.
Yeah.
Hench Pig. I don't know.
Hench Pig with his hippo buddy,
Ama-
or was it a rhino buddy? I don't know. You're right. It
like,
is Bebop and Rocksteady. Like,
I literally was like, "Are we doing TMNT now? Is this the big reveal from how do we get this franchise in here?"
right.
Okay, that was fun
Yeah.
overall. All those little creatures, like that was a really good because also we're in a world where the future's coming fast and genetic manipulation is a actual question we're facing and is like an ethical thing people debate.
Yeah.
That made it even more compelling when you have a big bad who is dealing with things that people talk about in
Hmm.
like hushed tones, and that I thought that was interesting
Right.
to go that way with it, even if at times it was dark. And you're right about Rocket it being in flashbacks because you just get doses of that
Yeah.
sadness and then some happy flashbacks too. If it had been a life to death full movie, which is a difficult thing to pull off, that would have been the most depressing biopic
Oh
kind
yeah.
of thing where
Oh
the first
yeah.
30 minutes is just like, please stop torturing the animals. They're so cute. Like
Right.
this is a sick movie.
Yeah.
So that was probably the best way to do that for sure. And it doled it out over time in doses, and that was successful to me.
Yeah.
I don't have any other big thoughts. The only other thing I was going to mention is the Groot toys that will be sold from this movie.
Oh
I was
yeah.
starting a
Marketing
list. I
is
lost
like
track
having
at
a
some point.
yeah. They're having a field day with
Wait,
this movie.
we need 19 different versions of Groot because we're gonna do different variations of them, one toy for each, and then a toy where they all combine. So
Yeah.
we're not sure how we're gonna make a spider bird Groot toy. There were just so many different variations, but I saw Groot kicking ass in this movie, and we
Oh
haven't
yeah.
seen that a ton. We've
Yeah.
seen Groot die and become baby Groot. We've seen Groot be like a clunky tree that does some cool things sometimes. This was full form Groot. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there's another
Well,
level.
I
You would
would
know,
say
I
this
guess.
is so when we were introduced to Groot in the volume 1, I would say that that is like Groot in his in human equivalency, like in his 30s. This is
Okay.
Groot like in his 20s, I would say.
Badass.
Yeah, and he
I
was
love seeing
amazing.
peak Groot. Yeah.
Yeah.
To where there's a moment, right? Like, is the bird thing very realistic where Groot literally grows wings? But I was also like, why not? That's cool as hell. And if you can
Yeah.
grow it, whatever's like, if that's peak Groot, I want a peak like Groot character. I don't want them to do the thing where they reset it again and it becomes a little baby Groot because then you have to
Right.
wait another couple movies. I thought that was pretty cool. That was another little favorite moment when we're talking about mutant creatures, even though he's not one of the big bad's experiments.
Right.
Those are most of my thoughts and questions on the movie that I had for you.
Okay.
Anything else on your end you want to go through? The
Yeah.
music we could definitely talk about.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's talk about that now because again, it's fresh in your mind. And there's one thing that is just as much of a character in these movies outside of the real characters we're seeing on screen, and that's the soundtrack. Excuse me. The soundtrack, James Gunn once again, and I keep praising James Gunn because he deserves it. In everything that he does, he really pays close attention to the soundtrack. And this one, though not as brilliantly put together as Volume 1, still resonates very high and hits all the right moments and all the right beats. Love his choice, how it kind of spans. It kind of spans, like I would say Volume 1 was heavily focused on the classic rock of like the late 70s.
Dad rock shit.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
exactly. Then Volume 2 kind of dove more into the classic rock of like the early 80s, mid 80s, which that's like my realm. I love that stuff. I eat that stuff up like there's nothing. I thought what he was going to do and what it kind of sounded like was that he was going to go in full 90s in this one, which he kind of started. But then he definitely dove more into 90s and then 2000s, like early 2000s, with a
Mhm.
sprinkling of maybe some throwbacks to like a 70s hit here and the 80s hit there. But it all goes with the evolution, I guess, of the story and the characters here. So I love the soundtrack. It's definitely one of those that I'm gonna have on repeat when I'm like on the go and stuff. But yeah,
For
really,
a
really good
movie
stuff.
franchise, like I'm a music fan. I'm a vinyl record collector. I'm a
Hmm.
spend a full day in the record store dude. There's soundtracks over time, like American Graffiti, right, that stand out as all-time great movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
This franchise has that, and they also have the thing where like you might be shazamming in the audience, or like as soon as the movie's over, listening to that on the ride home and going like, "Oh, there's some classics. There's the No Sleep Till Brooklyn Beastie Boys moment, but there's a couple I'm like not sure even who this artist is. Whoever's on their music team is crushing it, unless it's just like the writer,
Honestly,
the director, or yeah,
it's all James Gunn, dude. He
is
is the
it
one that curates it. Yeah. Yeah.
that deep cut?
Oh yeah.
Wow, those deep
Yeah.
cut. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like about it, one reason why it's special in this franchise, which is true of other, you have musical soundtracks for original soundtracks that are popular, but that's another category. There's a lot of soundtracks where it's just background music. This is diegetic. This is the
Yeah.
characters that are hearing it. They have headphones in.
Hmm.
They're letting you know like it is such a crucial part to Star Lord's identity, which I think I like that as part of his origin story and his vibe. And he's kind of a rock. It's kind of like Baby Driver. It reminds me of a little
Yep.
bit, where like
Yep.
music is just so important to that character's identity, and it makes them more of a cool punk kid who, yeah, they're a punk rebel, but they also always have headphones in. They're like an introvert nerd
Yeah.
kid. Like I relate to that. And I think a lot of people do, or at least they have moments like that. This soundtrack to me was absolute fire. Also, I have to shout it out. You know me, you're gonna roll your eyes. Oklahoma had two artists present in this
Nice.
movie where I'm
Nice.
from. Garth Brooks gets a shout out near the end where they're doing the like
Yep.
favorite artists.
Yep.
And then Flaming Lips had a really nice moment with Do You
Oh
Realize, which
yeah.
was their hot song from Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. That was fun.
Nice.
I got
Nice.
into it. The rest of the theater in New York didn't, but I do know, I'm certain in Oklahoma City, people were going, "Oh, we're in a movie! Oh my
Yeah.
god!" So all that to say, I love that aspect of Star Lord's identity. That leather
Hmm.
jacket wearing cool. I see you, Renee, wearing yours. What's going on with the end of this movie and what's happening with the Guardians? And it gives us the Star Lord will return at the end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
you
Well,
know
it's
what's I
I
I know it's behind the scenes. Like it would still be in development if anything, if they even know what the future holds.
yeah.
No James Gunn. What's the plan?
I think that's like the big question right now. Like that is something. So like for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people who watch this movie, I paid very close attention to how they ended it, and I think we had a text exchange, and you were about to go watch the movie, and you said, "Do you want me to jot any notes down for anything?" And I said, "No, just enjoy it, but pay attention to the ending because I'm curious how you're going to feel about it." So the movie basically ends where, obviously, they save the day, quote unquote, where they rescue all the captives of the High Evolutionary that he was doing experiments on, and kind of making perfect and perfection and all that stuff. Which is also, again, yeah, if you think about his plot, how he created this planet called Alter Earth, I think it was called, or
Counter
yeah,
Earth.
Counter Earth, where he was trying to just make a better version of Earth from his mind, from his point of view, and how he realizes that, well, it didn't turn out as perfect as I wanted it to be. So the only other reasonable thing to do is just to recreate it all over again and wipe everyone out.
Again.
Yeah.
Apparently he did it before too.
Yeah.
There's a moment he goes, "Oh, your escape plan is to go down to the exploding planet. Perfect. That works great for me."
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some really cool badass that in fight scene was very successful.
Oh
I
my
just want to
gosh.
mention
The one shot
from this
fight
movie.
scene that they had with where you
Yo,
saw the team actually working as a team, that was
badass.
so good. And again, like you said before, it's the kind of action stuff, like you said with Groot, that we haven't really seen in a long time in these Marvel movies. And it hit home. It was just like, yes, we're seeing something so awesome. But yeah, as they basically save the day, we get that nice moment, where Star-Lord's like, we need to have a team meeting. And basically it's the disbanding of the group. You know, the one thing that you, if you notice, James Gunn has always treated this group as like a rock band. You know, like if you look at a lot of the marketing material, a lot of it looks like album covers. They look like they're all rock stars and all that. And you see a lot of like images and stills that look exactly like that. This is like the disbanding of the Beatles. This is like everyone needs to go on their own and figure things out that they want to do for themselves. Star-Lord realizes that ever since, you know, he was captured from Earth, he's never returned, and he's never kind of reconciled with his family that is still there. So he decides, like, maybe it's time for me to do that. Get myself truly over Gamora, and add as my healing phase is to reconnect with my family. Mantis is like, I've always been following directions from Ego, and now I've been kind of following directions from the Guardians. I kind of want to do my own thing now. I kind of want to, like, this is all part of growing up, right? So I want to go off on my own. So she does that. Nebula has now reasoned that, you know, she has this new purpose where she wants to take care of Nowhere. And she needs Drax because now they have an influx of all of these new children, these new cloned children from the High Evolutionary, who have bonded really well with Drax, which I also thought was kind of funny, how he knew how to speak their language without telling anyone. And he has this great line where he's like, you knew how to talk their language? It's like, yeah, how come you never said anything? Well, you never asked. It's just so Drax.
His dry comedy is among my favorite of any character in the whole MCU.
It's such a Drax moment. It's so good, you know, but his purpose is now being a dad to all of these kids, you know, which again is so touching, you know. And if you look back at the history of Drax, one thing that he could never let go is like his family, like his daughter, like, you know, being with his kids. And now he gets to finally do that, you know. And then we get Rocket's final true purpose is to lead the Guardians of the Galaxy, now that everyone is leaving and doing their own thing. So now he gets to hang out with Groot, who you knew Groot was never going to leave Rocket's side. They're always bonded for life. It's like Han and Chewie, you know, that's just how they're always going to be. And Cosmo, you know, with the little Russian dog now joining the team. And then now you have this new group that we see at a post-credit scene at the end with Rocket, Groot, Cosmo. You have Sean Gunn as Kraglin, who is still around. Then now you have the new Adam Warlock, played by Will Poulter. And then you have one of the kids, like one of the main kids, who can now speak English, apparently. So this must be like years after the fact, you know, because again, we talked about the evolution of Groot. This Groot that we have now at the end is what I kind of call King Groot, where he's like this gigantic, enormous, like kaiju, like crazy monstrosity, which you do kind of see in the comics in a different variation. And I think they refer to him as King Groot. So they are now kind of, quote unquote, the new Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which I think is smart for Marvel, because if you notice, half of that team is CG. So it doesn't matter, you know, who fills that role. You know, anyone can do a voice. So it's easy to kind of do that. And you have Sean Gunn, who, even though he does have loyalty to James and he appears in every movie that James Gunn does, it's a paycheck. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind returning to Marvel, right? You have the new kid who is still very young, so she can do whatever she wants to do whenever. And Will is also young too, so he could do whatever, you know, he could still join in and all that. So we get introduced to that new team, and then we get introduced to, or not introduced, but we get to see an insight of Peter Quill now chilling at home back in Missouri with his grandfather. Just seems to be just chilling and hanging out, you know, helping out around the house and all. And then that's when we get hit up with like that little teaser that Star-Lord will return, which baffled me because it kind of contradicts what Chris Pratt said in interviews. Or maybe he's just doing that because, you know, he doesn't want to reveal anything. And, you know, Disney and Marvel, they're very quick to slap you on the wrist if you give away too much stuff. So my biggest question is, will he really return? You know, and to what extent are we going to see maybe a Star Lord one-off? It being like maybe a show or you know, whatever series, or is he going to be one of those guys that will just pop in to movies from time to time? You know, especially now he's back on Earth. Will he pop into, I don't know, a Spider-Man movie, or will he pop into whatever, a Doctor Strange movie, or whatever the case is? I don't know. I This is one of those things where I don't really have a full answer to, because there hasn't been any talks about it. There hasn't been any revelations about it. So it will be very curious to see what's going to happen moving forward. But how did you feel about the ending?
So I like the one where he's at Earth. There was some humor there. He's eating cereal next to his grandfather, if I
Magic Spoon,
recall.
by the way, I love that they're eating Magic Spoon, which I always wanted to
Nice.
be like kind of a sponsor of ours. So just a little hint and throwing out there into the ether.
You and Peter Quill just eating Magic Spoon on camera. I missed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. But yeah, he's just complaining about the neighbor's lawn or whatever with his grandpa,
Right.
and that was sweet. I was also surprised, and this is somewhere a bunch of the audience go, "What?" whenever it says it'll return, because it's one of those things you could end it here. You could at least put a bookend on this
Yeah.
one and say, "Well, everything after this, we don't know what the future hold. If the Guardians return, it'll be a different version of them for sure,
Yeah.
at least a little bit." And then we'll see what the other characters are up to, checking on them. Maybe they have to get back together for one last rodeo.
Yeah.
But to say Star-Lord will return is interesting.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because sorry, I'm a noob. Is Star-Lord isn't like a Captain America thing where it can be a mantle that's passed down. Star-Lord is Peter Quill, is that correct?
Yeah. I mean,
That's one of the
that was
same.
a name that he gave himself. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's not something
yeah.
that you would like, oh, you put on the leather jacket and now Renee is
Right.
Star-Lord.
Yeah.
You know, you do
Yeah.
look,
I can only
you're giving
wish.
Star-Lord vibes for
I can
sure.
only wish. Yeah.
um, I don't have many thoughts on the end other than, why would you pigeonhole yourself unless it's keep people invested in the MCU? People are probably going in worried, going, I love this franchise. If you know what could happen is there's people who are Guardians fans more than MCU fans. They go to this movie, they say, oh, it's over.
Mhm.
I'm done with MCU now. I'm going to move over to DC. So it could almost be a business decision at the end of the day, especially
Yeah.
if we knew there'd be a fourth one, if we knew that the director and actors were already making that plan, or even a new director or something, then they probably would have floated something. There'd be some rumor somewhere.
Right.
But we're looking around the internet and it's nothing.
Hmm.
So it feels like a business tactic to me more than a storytelling tactic. Is it safe to say that at some point Chris Pratt will take a big enough paycheck to be in the Marvel 50th anniversary Infinity War? I don't know. Like that's probably not a terrible bet to say Star-Lord will in some way at some point return. Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be a flashback. Maybe it'll be a poster on someone's wall. But like it doesn't I don't see evidence, and maybe on Monday they'll go, oh, big surprise, Guardians 4 is we're doing a Memorial Day Easter
Yeah.
egg
Like, oh, we're
Easter
writing a
episode.
script, and oh no, we can't
Sure.
write because we're on strike.
It'll be an improv sketch comedy skit on
It's gonna be a touring company, like just going around. Hey, we are the
a
Star
live
Lord tour.
Netflix special. Yeah. So that doesn't make sense to me, but I also am not the most informed in the ways of James Gunn and Guardians and how the MCU rolls these things out. Just from my
Yeah.
experience, what I've seen them do before with these clips, sometimes like I still haven't seen Harry Styles doing anything, and we saw him at the end of I think it was Eternals.
That's
something.
very true. Yep.
Like that. Sometimes those things just kind of disappear, and
Yeah.
business-wise, it makes sense. You can't make every movie you want to make, and 3 years later, the world's a different place, and everything got pushed a couple of years, and
Yeah.
now this person's quit acting forever. Whatever happened there? So I don't know what to expect. I did get a little excited when I saw it, though. I go, "Ooh, Star-Lord will return! Ooh, I'll buy another movie ticket soon. I can't wait." And that kind of makes me a little suspicious. It's a business decision.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. A bit business decisions, but
take over.
no, it is pretty baffling. And again, it could mean so many different things. And I just hope they didn't pigeonhole themselves into a promise that they can't keep later on down the line.
Yeah,
because fans will riot. I
you
believe
lose capital in cachet and like trust in your franchise.
Yeah,
So you lose goodwill.
absolutely. Oh, speaking of goodwill, I'm curious. Oh, how did you feel about Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, who is a brand new character that was introduced into it was just introduced into this movie, who is extremely powerful. Probably one of the more powerful Marvel characters that we have right now. Uh, any thoughts on the introduction of this new character at all?
You mean the kid from We're the Millers?
Yeah,
I think he did a pretty damn good job, considering his resume.
yeah,
Overall, I liked the character, and I thought he was going to be either a big bad or a number two to the
sure.
big bad kind of thing, which kind of happened. Like he murdered War Pig real
Oh
good,
my God, so quick.
real quickly. He was
Yeah,
a really good, but also you kind of get the problem at some point where it's like, oh, Captain Marvel has so much strength, no one stands a chance, and now this other guy has super duper duper
yeah,
strength, and now the two super duper strength people will punch each other and they'll play bloody knuckles until one of them explodes, and then
yeah.
we lost 3 planets. Like I don't want to go down a route where like that is a recurring thing, but it is
Hmm.
fun, especially when you have a team up movie like this. How are these 5 people going to outsmart and trick this dude who's seemingly invincible and could take anybody one on one? How do you defeat them? That's kind of been a running thing throughout the Marvel movies, and either team up against team up, like in Civil War, or how does the group take down Thanos? Was the main in game. Sorry, I'm not trying to pun. Was like the main in game of the
Heyo.
whole first 2 phases. How do we team up to defeat the strongest and most
Right.
impossibly super duper strong person ever? So I enjoyed them starting off with that.
Yeah.
That can become tiresome at some point if it's just you're just a like a rock'em sock'em robot punch out, but
Right.
with infinity strength. So
Right.
overall, though, pretty good character, pretty good acting. I wasn't too mad about it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
yourself?
I was interested. I found it really interesting, especially I found it interesting to the how they approach the character because I am slightly familiar with the camera from the character in the comic books. Um, the character was actually in the comic books very heavily involved in the whole Infinity War moments.
Hmm.
He was the one that was originally supposed to have the Soul Stone that Vision had in the movies. So it was interesting how they kind of changed that around and all that. He played the character to be very childish in the beginning because he is still kind of freshly born and all that. So obviously he doesn't know a lot, which I also found very fascinating how they did it. And then at the end, it looks like he's just very well adjusted with the group and all that, and seems to be doing okay. So I'm curious to see if we're ever gonna get more from him and more exploration of that character, or is this gonna be like another Harry Styles situation where he shows up especially well he's definitely more of he had more capacity in this movie than Harry was, but is he going to be easily forgotten moving forward? Like it'll be weird to sign up someone like him to just do that and then that's it.
Also, this is kind of interesting. I'm just looking at dudes. I know I was saying that he's the kid from Where the Millers. He's in The Revenant.
Yeah.
He was in Detroit. He was supposed to be cast as Pennywise in It,
Oh, is
but
that
then
right?
dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. Just learned that right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yes. And then Bill Skarsgård comes in after that.
Mm,
Um, Maze Runner said Black Mirror, Midsommar. We've got some really good directors directing this dude.
sure.
Now James Gunn. I mean, I could get some like little. I'm like I don't know what kind of star he would be, but like Jesse Plemons kind of star,
I
just
see
doing
that
different
for
type of
sure.
character work.
Yeah.
Just a different looking dude. Maybe not going to be the George Clooney type, but
Yeah.
more of that. I could good enough acting to where if he's done these different type of roles and they're different from each other, I'm going to keep an eye on Will Poulter. Maybe I'll put some stock in his Hollywood career. That's
There you go.
interesting.
Yeah. So again, we talked about the endings and all that, and obviously character endings for sure. How did you react to the whole Gamora and Peter Quill relationship? I mean, were you expecting them to maybe reconcile, or maybe she'll give in a little bit and be like, "Yeah, I may not be the same Gamora, but you know what? I'm willing to give this a shot." Or, did you know, okay, no, this is not going to happen, and I'm cool with how it all ended? Because in a way, her character arc ended with her reteaming with the Ravagers, right? Who we found out that she was a part of this whole time, and I guess being one of their like leaders. essentially, and off doing their own thing. And Peter and her not reconciling their relationship and their bond. But I feel like at least Peter got a closure in saying what he had to say and realizing that, okay, I need to give this up because that's not the same person I fell in love with. But you saw her for a brief moment be like, I can kind of see how my other self saw him the way she did. So should
Yeah,
I or should I
yeah,
not? You know?
yeah. You get some the so the part of those scenes were hard for me to watch, and I had to, in a way, like kind of shut down during them.
Mm.
I haven't said this on air before, but I had a partner before who was in an accident, like a car accident,
Oh.
where they were in a car with their father. They hit a cow on the road, and I know that that sounds funny, but it's not. And they ended up with the form of amnesia where they can remember their life up until the night before.
Mm.
And so I'm actually describing right now the plot of 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if we had a sequel, a rom-commy, Quill and Gamora 50 First Dates vibe,
I see what
I
you did
would
there.
love that. Hear me out. One of the
Yeah.
best Adam Sandler rom-coms, maybe top 15. It's not that
Yeah.
good, but I did enjoy that. The one where it's like, is it destiny? Is it fate? The chemistry is right there between the two, and it was
Hmm.
always sizzling. And so it just takes two people who were kind of built to love each other being in the same room again, and
Yeah.
fireworks, baby. So I kind of expected that a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
It You can't do it too quickly or too soon, or it's kind of corny. It's just
Right.
like, oh, destiny in your eyes. I like the one where she's giving him shit, being like, "Who are you?" That was
Yeah. Yeah.
fun. That was
Yeah.
a good. But then also, poor boy's suffering in his heart, and it was compelling to watch that too.
Yeah.
Um, he's a little cocky, so seeing him have the love of his life go, I've never met you before, was fun. But it also adds to their dynamic, and it wouldn't necessarily work if she was always head over heels and it had to convince, like he wasn't fully into it. It's their dynamic allows for this to rebuild that same, I don't know who you are, I don't care about you, we're not buddies, stay away from me, and he's got this crush on her. Like, it allows that to happen again.
Right.
They just have to kind of set it up in a certain circumstance. If you give me a Guardians 4 with no Peter, but that means that there's a side one, which is Peter and Gamora, I would love that rom com. We haven't had a Marvel rom com fully. We've had little blips in there,
Yeah. We
but
had blips. Yeah,
never a
but never
full.
like,
We've
yeah.
done every other genre movie. Give me one of those.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I wonder like which characters could be involved in said rom com. I'm sure there's the characters with like very
Drax
very
has to be the best friend roommate guy walking out.
both Drax and Mantis should be, because like that chemistry between
Perfect.
the two is brilliant. And
Perfect.
we kind of alluded to it earlier how they really ended up being like brother and sister, even more so
Yeah.
than Peter
You're
and
dating
her.
my brother?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so good. Hear us out. Just hand us $1 million. We'll make this movie for.
Oh yeah.
I want this one very badly now.
Yeah,
Let's talk
and
yourself into it.
and you know what? We're not members of the WGA, so we can totally work. Like,
Oh, I'll scab immediately. I'm kidding. Workers of the world unite. But also,
absolutely,
I
yeah,
really want to see this movie for what it's worth.
yeah, no, for sure, yeah. So again, the closure
It's
of the Drax
compelling.
and it was now the closure of the Drax and Mantis relationship there, with Mantis going off on her own, and kind of growing up, maturing, and all. Just seeing them together on screen, you kind of hinted at one of the best lines in the movie that really hit you. Like I said, the moment that really hit me in the movie, and I think this was your most emotional moment. Yeah, you want to share that moment with everybody?
No, I really don't, Renee. Thank you for letting me
Oh,
on the spot there. I was thinking of you actually when I heard this line, and that's why I got emotional about it. At some point, at some point there, where Mantis is talking, Mantis puts Drax up to give a very emotional speech to Peter, and
yeah,
because Drax is the dry comedy, super literal, doesn't know how to make an analogy. This was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, especially as like a former English major. He gives Peter this little speech where he's saying, "You've been jumping from woman to woman like you're trying to stay above water, jumping from lily pad to lily pad, when really you should have just learned how to swim."
hmm
And then it devolves into brilliant comedy where he's going, wow, that was an amazing speech. I've never heard you make an analogy before. And then Drax brilliantly decides, oh, I know what analogies are. I'm going to prove it to you. And he gives 3 examples of analogies that are not
That are not
analogies,
analogies.
including earlier I pooped and my poop looked like a fish. Even my butt can make analogies. Amazing Ars Poetica.
Oh,
Pardon the pun there, but Ars Poetica, like poetry about poetry.
yeah.
Brilliant breakdown of the writing process for Drax. And then Peter just looks over, and Mantis is like, "No, I didn't put him up to
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it's just like,
Obviously,
"Oh,
how you
no,"
sold
yeah.
yourself out, you morons." It was so cute. I loved that moment, but it
It
was very affecting. It was a good little speech. It was cute.
it was, yeah, no, that is definitely a great line, and I think a line that a lot of people can relate to, for sure, and it again, just goes back to the writing, like we've been saying and all that, but yeah, nice moments with Drax and Mantis, and it's gonna be sad not to be seeing them together, anytime soon, or at least for a good long while. Again, we don't even know if Drax will ever return. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see what's going to happen, if anything, if there is going to be a reuniting of the two. Um,
DCU taking this franchise, because these are among of all of the franchise. Like, we've had some good Thor movies, some bad Thor movies. We've had
mhm.
some better Captain America ones, some worse ones. This is one of the purest, most successful internal IPs within the MCU. Maybe the most. I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. It's maybe Spider-Man's up there
Spider-Man would be
with
up
like
there, yeah.
hit for hit, pound for pound
Yeah,
bangers. That's within the MCU. That's pretty rare. There's some
yeah.
Iron Mans that are good, better than and worse. There's not. I don't think any of them have an unblemished track record, box office and acclaim wise, beyond Spider-Man and Guardians. Part of what makes this franchise special is that highly emotional, it's kind of dark, like, and then also the very, very funny.
Yeah.
I love that about this franchise. That scene we just talked about did that, but all of them have done that throughout. It's what they're really good at.
Mhm.
I think one thing that's interesting about DCU stealing away Mr. Gunn is not only are they adding a boon to their end, and not only are they taking James Gunn from the MCU, but it's also cutting the legs out from one of the star franchises within the
Mhm.
MCU. Now I'm feeling it. Now that like we're going through the characters and the emotional stakes of these
Yeah.
movies. I'm kind of sad right now, and I hope whoever takes it on and takes up the reins. But so far, there's no guarantee. This might be the end. That's sad. The
Yeah.
sadder one is somebody else takes it on and it sucks and it doesn't have
Yeah.
that touch. So there's been moments before where James Gunn was kicked out and then brought back in, etc., and not going to be making the next one. I'm curious what their plans are, because they may have learned during that time of like, actually, this dude is the one who made Guardian special, or maybe they just, oh, maybe it was all negotiating. This person will leave if they don't bring them back, and we feel like we could pull it off anyway. But if they did the same group of people for Guardians 4 with no James Gunn and it sucked, that would be painful
Yeah.
to watch. That'd be some like Phantom Menace level. What the hell happened here? Alternatively, it makes sense that they broke the group up and are at least doing a hiatus. If not, the bands never get back together and everyone does their side projects. And in that way, at least, okay, it sounds different. It doesn't have the same tone,
Mhm.
but it's successful in its own right. That's possible. I think that they set themselves up for better success than if they just kept the group together with and lost that
Yeah.
thing that made it special. That's my gut.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I think, and I kind of mentioned it before, the fact that we now have this new, quote unquote, new team with half of them being CG and half of them not, it makes a lot of sense, because it's very easy to bring that group back if you wanted to at any point, because again, you have younger actors associated with the group, you have voice actors associated with the group, and the one Sean Gunn, who is the brother of, the creator of it all. So if anything, he could have a lot of input on how to treat things, the way they should be treated and all. But at the end of the day, we didn't get a message that said the Guardians will return. We only got a message that said Star-Lord would return. So who knows? I mean, I could see the Guardians coming back at your big event movie, like the big, like this is the movie where everyone is teaming up to go against Krang, or everyone is teaming up to go against whatever big baddie we have that's not Jonathan Majors or whatever the case is.
You said Krang. I just want to make sure we're not talking
Oh, Kang.
TMNT
I'm sorry,
tie-ins,
Kang.
right?
Kang. Yeah,
I was
sorry.
joking about TMNT tie-ins with Warpig Bebop earlier. But if you're telling me Krang is coming in the MCU,
I have
I'm buying all
TMNT
the
in my
MCU
head.
stock. My favorite character from TMNT. Are you kidding me?
I have TMNT.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely have
That's
TMNT
so
in my
funny.
head, but that is so
Krang
funny.
versus
Yeah.
Kang. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, it's
I get it.
it's one letter, so but yeah, again, at the end of the day, this was such a great movie. It was so much fun. It was very emotional. I think more emotional than I thought it was going to be. Great this is honestly, this is the first movie this year that I actually feel I need to see again in the theater, because that's just how much I enjoyed it. Now, the other movies that I did enjoy this year so far, I want to watch again, but I'm not rushing back to the theater to. It's like once it's available for digital, I'm definitely going to see them again. This one, I'm definitely rushing back to the theater to watch, because I feel like I need to, because that's just how strong of a movie it was. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. So speaking of box office, why don't we just take a quick look as to where we stand box office wise, especially since we have our little game going on between the two of us.
I'm feeling real cocky right now.
And you have every right to be. So in case you didn't know, in our previous episode, we mentioned that we were participating in a little game, in a little contest. It's like our first annual, what we call summer movie box office draft, right? I think, for the lack of a better term. We need to find out a better name to call it. But anyway, that's what we decided to call it for this time. And we each drafted 10 movies that are coming out this summer. And at the end of the summer, whoever has the highest grossing box office is the winner. Blake won first pick, and he chose Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is a brilliant and smart move, because that would have been my first choice. So as of right now, and this is just numbers tallying for the preview night on Thursday, Friday's box office. I don't think this includes Saturday yet. But right now we have Guardians at 48.2 million.
Thank God. I thought that says 48,000, and I was just like, oh no, I'm off to a terrible start. And so is the film. Okay, I see.
Yeah. 48.2 million. And again, this is really just for like a day and an evening, right? So, and this is like the total gross. This is global, I believe. No, this is domestic. Sorry, this is only domestic. So if we go into global, right now the worldwide box office is at 89 million.
Damn.
For only a couple of days.
Crushing it over here.
Yeah. So
Volume 3 earned franchise best 17.5 million in previews, which is just Thursday box office.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it'd be pretty good. Feeling real good right now.
Yeah. So you're in a good spot.
How you feeling, bro?
Look,
you nervous?
I knew this was going to happen. I knew the minute that you chose Guardians, I knew that was going to be the result, because I was expecting this movie to do gangbusters. And again, it's because of the reception of all the other two movies. This is the one that speaks the best, I think, to all audiences. You rank this up with the Spider-Mans, the Black Panthers. Like, these are the movies that hit home well with more general audiences, and maybe like the tentpole major Avengers movies. Like everyone loves to see the big team up, right? Everyone just loves to see that.
As box office, sure, but they're not as critically successful as Guardians 1 through 3 so far. But they have a similar vibe, which is, who are these people? Where they come from? They're misfits. They're weirdos. They've had some trauma in their past, and now they're overcoming that, getting the group back together, taking on a mission, team up vibes, with the comedy and some serious in there, different tones, but not very. Like, there's another weird universe where, like, essentially Guardians is its own little MCU within the MCU.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about earlier. And even when they show up with other MCU stuff, it's not very much. Even Infinity War in-game stuff, they're just popping in at the end, kind of. They'll have some side adventure with Thor, but compared to other characters that are just in and out of all of them, they're their own little contained story within the MCU, and they have but the same vibes overall, essentially. And I think, other than Spider-Man, even with Black Panther in there, and even with Avengers, if you talk about critical and box office, it's the most or second most successful of all of the internal MCU IP.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do strongly feel like this movie's going to have great legs going into the next couple of weeks, because I don't think there's anything else major, like major coming out for the rest of the month, right? You could quickly check on that. I think
we're going right up till Memorial Day is a couple weeks from now, so they might just give Guardians some room, which is what you'll see when you have a big movie drop like this.
Yeah.
Give them a few weeks.
Yeah. Oh, did you watch this in IMAX or did you watch it regular?
Regular, yeah. It was so sold out.
I could imagine.
To get the group together was tough.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, I think we're talking Fast X at that point, unless I might be looking at the wrong list, but right, basically up until
that sounds about right.
That's also to say Vin Diesel's going to have just a great franchise run here at the box office.
What a career in the MCU to just be a voice where he says, "I am Groot." Oh, that just reminds me. How did you feel about Groot actually saying, "I love you guys"? Like saying something that's not "I am Groot" in the movie.
Did I miss that?
Oh, you didn't hear that?
Wait, well, it's possible. I have ADHD. 1, 2. At what point in the movie does this happen?
At the end, when they finally realize that they're disbanding and they're saying goodbye to everyone, he basically.
What does this imply for his language and syntax?
I know.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not like that moment. I think that if there was one moment I didn't like, which it's so weird for me to be this nitpicky, but it's that moment. Like, he should not. In volume 1, when he, kind of forms that cocoon, he says, "We are Groot." And I thought that was cute. I was like, all right, this was very poignant at the end. And then now, fast forward volume 3, the other time he deviates from his typical thing is where he says, "I love you guys." And I was just like, wait, what? Like, where the hell did this come from? Now, is he just like, has he been exposed to the human language so much that he just knew how to say that? Like, I don't know. It was
Maybe
so
he's the one able to make analogies next time, or he's just doing full writing Shakespearean dramas.
Is he like the silent Bob of the group, where he just remains quiet the whole time, and then at the moment he just says this big soliloquy at the end?
Yeah, I would love that. To go back to your other question, 2 weeks from now is Fast X.
Okay.
2 weeks from that, Spider-Man. A week from that, Transformers.
Okay.
And a week from that, Elemental. It's an interesting season. At some point, we'll look back and we'll go, "Oh, damn, we have 5 blockbusters right behind us," and we'll have a better idea for the box office. But I think the main point when that'll happen will be like July 21st, kind of 2.5 months from now, when it's the Barbie Oppenheimer weekend.
Oh my gosh!
The week before. That'll be a fun time. But in the meantime, we're basically going to slow drip these things in the Memorial Day season of Summer Box.
All right. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, no, you're still there.
For at least 2 wait, what do I have on my list here? Yeah, I'm here. Fast 10, interesting. I'm just going to be hitting home runs.
Actually, I think the next...
Just watch me wrap the numbers up.
I think the next movie you have on your list that's coming out is Book Club. Didn't you choose Book Club?
Oh, yeah. And once that turns out to be the number, overtake Avatar in the global box office in all history, you're damn right I'm going to be excited. That's when I'm going to get real coffee.
I love how that is your pick. Oh, man. Yeah. It's going to be really, really interesting to see. All right. Any final thoughts?
Groot will be in the book club. Yeah. Since he's now fully literate. Apparently.
Or they're going to read one of his books that he wrote. That's what.
Final thoughts. I love doing this with you. I'm glad that the MCU at least has a breath of fresh air in its oeuvre. I had fun at the movies.
That's good.
Thank God. No, I love that feeling.
No, I'm glad you actually enjoyed it, because I know how this is not your genre and all that. So it's nice to see that you actually enjoyed this movie. What was your Letterboxd rating on it?
I started at 4. I ended up 4.5 after overthinking a little bit, but it's in that range for sure.
Okay, nice.
You? You?
For me, I gave it a 5. For me, it was a pure 5 Letterboxd rating.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're
because
normally rating harsher than me, but this is a you movie for sure.
this is a movie that was definitely a me movie, and again, it was, in my opinion, the best out of the 3 Guardians movies, and the best MCU movie that we got since Endgame, in my opinion. So yeah, very
Part
well
of
done.
our friendship is we're similar to the Guardians. You're wearing a leather jacket. We're 2 weirdos, 2 outcasts coming together. Guardians, in seriousness, is what brings us together more than anything else. Where
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that's what got me into MCU, and that's when you and I are talking about movies, and you're recommending, like,
yeah,
oh, you're going to want to watch this one. Oh, what did
hmm
you think of this character? Okay,
yeah,
maybe don't wait. Maybe put off Thor: Dark World until you're really into this thing,
oh yeah,
etc. And then we end up seeing Endgame together in theaters,
hmm
just having a hell of a bro night.
oh yeah,
This is in some way just like Guardians is the little team up. This is like our team up franchise in a way,
yeah.
where
No, for sure.
all my little movie interests and yours would just fully align, and that we've been doing this ever since.
Yeah,
Glad
no,
to be
and
part of it.
yeah, and
Guardians 3.
it's fun, and obviously we're not gonna end anytime soon. Unlike the Guardians, who decides to disband when it's just getting good. But anyway, but yeah, no. Again, I'm glad that we really enjoyed this movie. We're hoping that all of you out there enjoyed this movie. Again, if you're watching this in a replay, um, let us know your thoughts and comments of the movie, how you felt about the movie in general. Was there anything that threw you off? Was there anything that you related so closely to? What was the best moments of the movie for you? Let us know in the comments. Again, we already spoke about spoilers and all that, so by all means, come at it, go at it in the comment section. But that is our special live episode of Movie Time this week. Again, for those who may have joined us live, thank you so much for tuning in. We totally appreciate it. Blake, before we head on out, where can people find you online?
Letterboxd.com, where I gave this movie 4.5 stars. My username is last name Wolf.
Awesome. And as for me, again, you can also find me on Letterboxd under the LOWKEY GEEK, but that is the handle you could find me on all social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, but most importantly, here on YouTube for the LOWKEY GEEK channel. Again, if you have not done so yet and you're brand new and you like what you see and you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified every time a new episode is uploaded. If you want Movie Time and LOWKEY GEEK on the go, check out the LOWKEY GEEK podcast channel on your podcast platform of choice, where you can download episodes like this for your listening pleasure. And if you're in a position to further help support the channel, definitely check out the affiliates that we have in the description of this episode. You may find something awesome for yourself or for a loved one, and by participating, you will be helping support this channel at no additional cost to you. And for all of your support, again, we are truly thankful and grateful. So, with that being said, this has been Movie Time. I've been Rene. That's been Blake. We'll catch you next time. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Peace out, y'all.
LOWKEY GEEK.
In the next Movie Time.